the seedlings and the plantlets, I'm going to use this system, and this is basically they're just basically grow lights on a tray, but this tray has some wicking in, and what you can do is you can add some water along the bottom. It'll keep that nice and damp, and the idea is this capillary system, this capillary matting, then the plant pots can draw up this water, so you don't have to water every day. But I'm not going to use that this time. We'll get rid of that. I'm actually going to put a heat mat, because the room it's going in is very cold, and the heat mat, very, very gentle heat, like people use for brewing beer or making wine, just very, very gentle. And I'll just look after the watering myself. Now I'm going to work on the chilli seeds that we took from the chilli plants that just keep on giving. And I've saved some here, and they're ready for planting. Hi, it's Helen from Gone Potty Gardening, and it's time to repot these babies. These were grown from the chilli pepper plants. You remember the chilli peppers that never stopped giving? We made loads of sweet chilli jam, and also used them in curries. We froze loads as well. Oh, it was fantastic. So I saved some of the seeds, and with the help of a heat mat and this light that's on a timer switch, we grew these ones. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to find the strongest ones. They're all doing pretty good, but I think I've got about 3 or 4 really strong ones there, and they're going to be repotted into their final pot with the compost, good drainage, and we'll get those back on the windowsill where the original ones came from, where the mother plants came from. And what I'm going to do there is put them under the full spectrum lights, and we'll see if they're okay without the heat mat, because it is hopefully going to start warming up after this month. Certainly inside it's not too bad, but I'm not quite sure on the kitchen windowsill how they'll do. But if it is too cold, I can always put that back, and they can have a little bit of warmth in the soil. I mean, when I touch the soil, it just feels normal, kind of roomy temperature. So I think they're all right, and I want them to strengthen, because we're going to put 1 or 2 of them out into the polytunnel, hopefully. But if not, we know it works in the kitchen here in the west of Ireland. So, yeah, let's get to repotting now. Well, I'm back here now, and I'm at the Gone Potty potting station that Mrs. Gone Potty Jackie set up.
That's actually a paint dish.
Well, it works really well. It works really well. So what I've done is I've identified at least 3 that are very strong. If there's 1 or 2 that look as if they could come on, I will pot them as well separately. And I don't think we'll need more than 3 plants. 2's enough if they do well. But I've just put some water through there to soften up the soil for when I then repot them. But this size is pretty good. I'm not quite sure what that is. Probably looks about 7 or 8 inch pot. But that's perfect. I'm just going to put some crocks, well, some nice stones in the bottom, because chilli plants like good drainage. So I want to make sure that plenty gets drained. I'm going to get some of this lovely soil. It's lovely when you get your hands in the dirt. This really nice compost.
That's actually vegetable compost, which is peat-free.
Good. We don't want any of that, do we? The peat. We're going all eco-friendly here. We're having a whole new system put into the house, and it's going to use sort of the latest insulation techniques around external insulation. We haven't any loft insulation here, so it's going to be really good to get that done. But we're going to be able to, we've had to rely on the stove, which means coal and logs. And so what we're going to be finding is that we're going to be reducing our carbon footprint, which makes us very happy, and keeping warmer because it can be very cold here. It's an old house. But I'm just gently pulling these apart. The two small ones in here, they are very, very small and didn't thrive, so I'm not going to worry about them. But I just want to get to this bigger one, and I don't want to break too many roots. I want to keep it as intact as possible. In fact, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pull out the two that I don't want, and I'm just going to pot the whole lot, because that is going to disturb the roots the least, I think. Look at that, isn't that lovely and healthy? It's beautiful, isn't it? Lovely, lovely, lovely green colour. So the big thing is, I have to take out a bit of that actually. The big thing about this is I can't tell you the exact type of chilli plant that it is, because initially we got these from our local garden centre and they didn't say, they just said chili peppers on the label, and the staff didn't know. So there was no Latin name or any particular nice name to call it, so we were stuck. So that's looking pretty good, I think. I'm going to water it again, and I'll do that when it's on the tray on the windowsill with the lights. But I think I've got 2 or 3 more I can do from there. So I'm just going to get on with that now. And I'm sure Jackie will whiz the camera through that one. And I'm going to put those aside. Yeah, they won't make it. They weren't destined to make it. So here we are back with the lovely chili pepper plants. And these 3 were the strongest out of all the seedlings. I'm going to have to spray the excess soil that's got on some of the leaves. I tried to be careful, but anyway. And I've got 2 here. They're healthy, but they weren't as large.
Can we have a look?
Yeah, come and have a look at them. And that's probably the biggest one. This one's got the widest leaves at the moment. And then there's this one. I mean, really, they're not native to this climate at all. But we managed to grow them very successfully indoors. But these are the offspring of the ones that we bought. So it's all an experiment. Now, these 2, we'll see what happens with them. But you just don't know. Like my nephew, who it's his business, hobby and business, foxpeppers.com. He grows all the different types. And he's been part of a what do you call it, a challenge. So the chili growing pepper world, they have their challenges. Like Jackie's got the potato growing challenge coming up. And they've been growing them in beer cans, and they just cut off the top of a beer can and poke a few holes in the bottom, put the right compost in, and they're not allowed to transplant them. And they've got the most beautiful chilies. But you see, he's out in Portugal, so they get a bit more sunshine. So these are all going to go on the windowsill, and we'll see how they do. And 2 or 3 of them hopefully will migrate to the polytunnel and do well. Only a couple of them I just didn't feel were worth transplanting. They weren't thriving particularly well, so we won't worry about them because, well, we had 2 plants last year, and if they work and if they fruit, then that's plenty enough, because we've got loads of frozen chili peppers still to use. We've got jars of chili jam in the fridge and in the cupboard, just maturing, so everything will do well. The next stage is I'm going to get these onto the kitchen windowsill with a saucer underneath them. I'm going to spray off the leaves so any of the soil that's on there doesn't interfere with any photosynthesis, and they can get as much light as possible, and they'll have a little drink with the new soil, but not too much. You must never waterlog these. Now, sorry, Jackie?
Yeah.
You squeaked?
I was going to say, what about this pinching out of the peppers that I read about?
Yeah, I mean, they talk about pinching them out so that they bush up. And, the more bushiness you have, the more leaves you've got, the more open to nutrients from the sun and photosynthesis can take place so the plant's healthy. But I was reading about it. Was it necessary? Because I've seen some people pinch out their tomato plants too much. And what happens is there isn't enough leaf left to sustain the health of the plant and grow the tomatoes. Obviously, you don't want too many tomatoes or it'll all fall over and break. But yeah, so there's a fine line to be had. So with chili peppers, I did some research, and people talk about pinching out the tops, the side shoots and that. Well, I came across this YouTube, and it's a guy who did an experiment of exactly the same seeds, and they both looked about like that, those two. One he pinched out and one he didn't. And when they were mature and fruiting, there was hardly any difference between them. So, you pay your money, you take a choice. So I'm not going to worry too much about it.
And anyone growing peppers for the first time, what are the top tips really? I mean, obviously I suppose you plant more seeds than you actually want because you're going to get this where you get the smaller, weaker seedlings.
Yeah, definitely. They need good drainage soil, and that's why I've got plenty of crocks in. They don't like the roots to be too wet. So what you want to do is when it waters, let it go through the pot into the dish, empty the dish, and just make sure they get some moisture, but they don't sit in wet soil. So actually what's quite good is if you've got some sand and you mix it in with your compost, would make it really good. So they don't like that. I'm not going to feed these just yet because there already is in that compost. It already has nutrients. But after about a month, I'll start feeding them every fortnight, just a regular organic food. We might use some worm tea or something along those lines. But once they start fruiting, you then treat them like tomatoes in that you use tomato feed. They need the high potassium and yeah, all the good stuff that they have that tomatoes need. They need those nutrients then very strongly. So yeah, they'll be treated like tomato plants really. And very soon they're going to go up on the windowsill and we'll go under the full spectrum lights.
If you were like now, you've grown peppers indoors, we're going to keep them in the kitchen.
Yeah.
What about people that want to put them outside? So it's too cold at the moment. So what do? You do like you do normal plants.
Yeah.
When it gets to sort of March and April, just acclimatise them.
Yeah, I'd harden them off very, very gently. So what I'd probably do here is when it's warmer and you have a nice day, I'd start off by just opening the window that's on the windowsill, so they get the fresh air, and that's good also because it helps with we're not building up with bugs and things, aphids, which they love. Aphids love these plants, so we lost some to aphids last year, but
once they take over them.
Basically, by the time you've noticed them, if you don't do something immediately overnight, you might as well just put your plant in the bin straight away. So that's how I do it. I'll start off, if it's a nice sunny spring day, I'll open the window and then I'll take them out for the day. If it's a nice sunny warm day, find a sunny spot, but bring them in at night, and then until they've hardened off. Yeah, absolutely, until they're acclimatized. But do you know what? Even with house plants, it's a good thing to do in summer is take them out. And it really helps with pests and diseases that they get the fresh air, they get the natural sunlight direct, and even let the rain natural rainwater get to them. I water these with natural rainwater, and we collect in the water butt in the IBC tank that we have, which is, it drains from the roof into the IBC, so all our watering can come from nature. And that's the same with the house plants too. So yeah, you just harden them off like you would tomatoes or any of your other seedlings, but it's really good for them to get some fresh air and direct sunlight now and again, not for too long, not to burn them, but it's nature, isn't it? It's nature.
So what we do, Helen, is we'll catch up with you again when we start getting any fruit on the seedlings. Well, there'll be plants by then.
Oh, touch wood.
So we'll catch up with you then.
Yeah, we'll catch up with these babies, and thank you very much, everyone, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell. You can buy us a coffee. It's all in the link in the description. And I think, I'm going to tell you a little secret here, but I think Jackie's going to start doing a lot more lives soon.
Well, it's always nerve-wracking, the first one, isn't it? But I'm just going to go for it, I think.
I think you should go for it. I mean, I will join in now and again, but not all the time because I get very breathless. So that's my lot for today. Chilli plants.
Why not come and join me on Facebook or Instagram? The link is in the description.